Apart from this video, did you like the conference?
I think a great conference. I think a lot of things to learn and take away from this conference, as far as I'm concerned.
What's that then?
No, I think what I liked about this conference is that I could have a lot of one-to-one interactions with a lot of people, apart from just not hearing them, but actually I could spend some time with them to understand their business and what they do and what are the things I can take back. Like, for example, Steve's discussion, I think I could pick up a lot of things, what the future is and what other apps are doing, and for me that was a wow moment in terms of how we should look at our app and increase the engagement on the app. And I've had a discussion with him one-to-one basis as well, which I thought was very, very fruitful for me. So I think overall, in terms of, in fact, your presentation, for example, to get the industry news and what's happening was again a good high point of the conference for me, because it gave me a lot of news, not news but analysis of what's happening, and again how the industry is growing, what's the scope, and how we can take it forward as what we have to offer in India and now the world. So I feel that in the end, all this culminated to a lot of good learning and a lot of good interactions for me.
I think one of the things that I always take away from each of these conferences is that additional layer of insight into what's going on, not just within the dating industry, but also trends from outside that we can bring in and learn from.
Right.
And I usually try to incorporate that in my presentations, but I think Mark's presentation was also a fun one for that, where we can see like where are users spending their attention.
Right.
And it's not just in dating. So like, does a dating app get more than 10 minutes a day from any users?
Yeah.
And can they? Can they even aspire to that, or is it just not the case? How many apps are on their phone? And of those, how many are dating apps? So like, there's so many really cool insights you can just glean from showing up and learning from what everyone everyone who's presenting here, like they're industry experts or they're CEOs who have already done it. They're literally just giving raw data from what they've collected that year, and like there's a layer of transparency that is really powerful that you get here. And even if you don't necessarily get it in the talk, you can follow up after.
Absolutely.
And like it's a real person. They're going to talk to you. They're going to be able to talk about, because like everyone's struggling. Not struggling in a bad way, but like everyone's trying to do better, trying to improve, and they like pooling their information so we can all learn from everyone else's mistakes or from their successes.
Right.
So on the subject of the presentation that I gave, I'd like to give a quick thank you to ComScore, SimilarWeb, 7Park and StartApp, who were the sources of the data. And we got a lot of data this time. We got some real good insights. The thing that bubbles up in my brain when I think about all the slides that we showed was the slide where we were looking at the growth of the number of paying subscribers, which is really, really super key, of course. The key question we always ask at the very last session, very last question, the final panel debate, is the industry going to grow this year? And the numbers were very evident in that particular slide that Tinder's going through the roof. The growth of Tinder over the last couple of years in terms of paying members is up very significantly. The number for the growth of the other next 7 top dating apps was 9% year over year in terms of paying members. So I have to we had to finish the final panel saying yes, indeed, the industry's up. But Tinder's taking the lion's share, and Match Group, of course, is taking the lion's share. There are a few more consolidators of choice emerging. We have Snap Interactive coming through. We've got Meet Me coming through with active acquisitions now tagged. They've merged with Tagged and Affinitas as well, merging with Spark Network. So exciting times, things are looking up. I think that's kind of a general overview and conclusion from this conference. But let's get into some specific sessions that we've got some takeaways for you from. So, maybe we'll do this a little bit differently this time. Let's think about if we think about the key takeaways, the key sessions, what stands out in your mind as one of the key sessions that you got the most from that really inspired you, and how did it inspire you?
So I think in terms of before I get into that, I think Grindr was a revelation for me. The growth, I think, is shooting out of the roof from other dating apps. I didn't expect that to actually in the numbers show that kind of growth happening for an app like Grindr. I was expecting that from a Tinder, but not from a Grindr. But when I saw that, it was actually shocking for me. But that's a great revelation in terms of how the apps come along and how well they're performing with a very, very focused target audience that they are catering to. So so that, I think for me that was a big take.
And I think their level of engagement, we got some numbers from, I can't remember where the source of the numbers, but one of the key charts was showing the number of times that people log in per paying per active user, and it was 84 times a week per active user on Grindr, which was like 3x the nearest competitor. So very high engagement. But you've got to consider, well, they don't have the numbers. They don't have quite the same level of numbers as some of the Tinder has more users, so the base is far larger.
Yeah, I think the secret with Grindr is that they only show you to other users when your phone is open with the app open, and that's why users literally like sit the phone down and leave it on, because that's the only way they get shown. That's why you're seeing a lot of engagement.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So like there's certain little tips and tricks, you know, when you talk to people who are actively on Grindr and you ask them like, why do you spend so much time? They're like, well, this is why. So you can get those level of insights there just by like showing up here. I want to say, Ritesh, your talk was something that was eye-opening for me, because you know, as someone who's US based, I oftentimes think a lot about the US market, but you kind of, this is not, I'm not can't even just speak for myself here, because like you opened a lot of people's eyes to like, there's a huge worldwide market here, and like your focus is in India, but like, even just, like I had mentioned a few things about the Chinese dating market, but I like there is the sheer level, like the volume of newcomers in terms of users into the dating industry, into mobile in India is insane, and like that's something like if that didn't get other people's attention about like, oh shit, maybe I should be starting to look into other countries, especially ones with explosive growth of mobile, and people who are moving into cities, and you talked about like the urbanization and how people are increasingly going to urban metropolitan centers. Like that's huge. That's something that like if someone doesn't come away from this conference thinking, oh shit, I need to be thinking India, or I need to be thinking like these increasing moves to urban centers, and how do I capitalize on that? How do I create an app that allows for my users to begin, you know, trickling in, not even trickling, flooding in from the urban centers.
That's right. That was the purpose. I hope I achieved it. Yeah, it's a good.
Bought yourself some new competitors.
I hope so. Yeah.
Which in some ways is good. I mean, is it?
Yeah, I think it helps, because I think it needed to be projected on a world stage in a way that what India can offer and what an app come out of India can do today. Because I think the market otherwise, I would not say saturated, because it is growing. We can see that, and I think that's what the panel discussion was, that it's going to go up. It's just that markets like us in India, Russia, markets which are growing have more potential and have got a higher headroom to right now occupy than maybe a US today.
And like Mark, your video showcasing your trip through India, talking to different providers of dating services, it was amazing, because historically, when I thought of Indian, like in the Indian dating market, I was thinking more, okay, it's mostly marriage, it's mostly parents arranging it, so if you can't really build a Tinder in India, and then suddenly you show that like, oh, actually all these users, like they hate the idea of arranged marriages, and there's increasing numbers of people moving to urban centers, and they're thinking, I want to get away from the whole matrimonial thing, and I actually want to be just like, you know, embodying my own dating preferences and not having to answer to my parents. And there's so much value in just having that layer of insight, because like previously, if your only notion of like what it's like to date in India, if you associate that with like, oh, I'm not going to build there because it's just matrimony, now it's like, oh shit, there's actually there's something here, and we should be focusing on that. And it doesn't just apply to India, but like there's that layer of insight that you know, I'm really happy that you shared that here.
Yeah.
And that was the premiere. It was an overview of, I think we had 8 end users in total. We surveyed 3 companies. So I went to pay a visit to Woo in Delhi and Matrimony in Chennai, and then I went to Mumbai to visit Shardi. And they rolled out the red carpet. They were absolutely fantastic in terms of getting access to the CEOs, the luminaries. They really are luminary CEOs. Of course, Matrimony, they've been around for years. They're the dominant force in matrimonials. In India, Shardi's number 2, and they both own the majority of the market, basically, between the two of them. And their philosophy, you know, getting into their philosophy, the CEOs and the founders were in the video, and we had the Woo CEO, and we had Ritesh in the video giving an overview of the market. So that's coming out probably around about the time this comes out. It should be mid-July that we'll make it available to everyone, but we're the premiere at the show.
I also wanted to note Alex Harrington's talk. He's the CEO at Snap. When he talked about M&A and like how different, like what are the acquisition channels that you can use if you're a dating app founder, and let's say you're monetizing well, but you know you want to see what the next step looks like, or you're afraid of like losing revenue, so you want to sell early. Just him giving that layer of insight as someone who's been acquiring companies for years, he gave a really good perspective in terms of like how you should think through like what will get you bought at a price that makes sense to you, what kind of things are like common failure points where if you're trying to sell once you've already hit like the low point in your revenues, then like you're screwed. No one's going to look at you. No one's going to talk to you. Or at least they're going to be vicious. Like they're going to be hungry because they know that they can get you for nothing.
Yeah.
So like there's just a lot of insight into how you should think through that process of when to sell, how to sell, who to talk to,
right.
even which companies are the ones who are currently actively seeking. He mentioned some, like there's Meet Group, there's Match Group, there's so many different, like before it was just Match Group buying everyone.
Pactor as well now.
Yeah, now we have at least like 5 or 6
yeah.
major acquirers in the dating industry. So if you, and he also mentioned an important thing, if you plan to sell, make it known that you plan to sell, because if they don't know, like he said, the acquirers are lazy.
Right.
They don't necessarily do their homework to find out like everyone who might be selling, so
right.
you have to signal strongly that
right.
that's what you want to do, and that's how you're going to be more likely to get the person you want.
Right.
No, that was actually very interesting. In fact, even the Happy Couple CEO, Julian Robert, when he spoke about the whole concept of how a question-based app can help people have more of compatibility, and that's what is making him grow through just releasing using media. I was just saying that I think Happy Couple has done a good job in terms of organically growing from what they have done over the last 1 or 2 years, and there is some learning there how you can use a PR value of relationship, PR for relationships, and creating cases with media about how happy couples can come on the site and actually share their stories. And I think it's something that we've done on Goo, where we use people and life stories to be promoted. But I think learning from him, it's a great concept that even I can take back and see what I can do on my app to promote people who are meeting on my app and create their stories on social media.
Oh yeah, that's just free publicity all day long.
Absolutely.
Anytime you get your users sharing their positive experiences as opposed to just their negative ones.
Absolutely.
That's a big one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We had a lot on fraud this time around.
Yes.
A lot on
Yes.
like maybe 2, at least 3 sessions actually.
Oh, we had
maybe
Count.
more.
Three of them actually.
We had Stephen Ward at Love Lab.
Yeah.
I think my take was that I didn't attend all of them, but my take on that is that it's important, but I think the priority wise, is it something that all apps are really gearing for or looking into? I doubt that, because there are other priorities right now, like organic growth, revenue, how to get a good user base on your app who can give you retention, who can engage. I think so. I would not say that it's not important and not vital, but in a priority list is something which is not something that I feel, when it comes to our app, is not something that we are really looking into.
You say that until you get hit with the multi-million-dollar lawsuit where you need the fund just for settlements.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to like just have those perspectives, because it helps you decide for yourself where to place it on your priority stack.
Yes.
So you calculate, okay, like this company had to pay that much. This company had a budget for just settling these cases.
Right.
These are the major things that hit their PR.
Right.
So it's nice to just.
No, it
have
is
those
important.
perspectives
I don't deny that. It's just that right now where all apps are on a particular life cycle in terms of what you are and what you need to do is something which you need to be careful about.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of them were very insightful, and a lot of them came out with some good thoughts that you need to at least absorb and keep it in your mind.
Yeah, I got to see Ali's talk. He's the
From IBM.
From IBM, CTO of analytics, hybrid cloud platform, and machine learning. He gave a talk on AI and like how AI works within IBM. And I was surprised by, like, most people think it's just like AI and like it's just the AI division and they don't really know what that means. And he gave a lot of insight into, it's not like, there's literally multiple departments for AI. There's multiple ways of doing AI. So like even just trying to understand how your AI or how your machine learning assesses a photo, that's a different department in many ways from the set of people trying to understand how AI attacks language and how AI attacks syntax and sentiment analysis. And like, it's literally different teams who have to work on this. So it's not just, add AI to your app. There's actually way more complexity to it, and it's a lot. I just loved that he went into so much depth into how deep that rabbit hole goes, because AI is a really powerful force that we need to start adopting in the dating industry. But it's one that, if IBM has multiple departments, multiple teams dedicated to just different types of AI, it's really hard as, a one-person dating shop, or even just a team of
Right.
10 people.
Right.
That's like IBM's team for just photo recognition. Actually,
Right.
they probably have 100 or more.
Right. Right.
But yeah,
Right.
so it's definitely more
Right.
complex than
Right.
I originally anticipated
Right.
when I was making my recommendation, saying like, hey, we should start looking into AI. And then he's just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, by the way, AI is really deep. It goes way deeper than you guys think.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for me, even the panel discussion in the end was quite nice in terms of, I think, the participation by everyone coming in, wanting to know how the current topics are. There were people who wanted to know what happens when you have a scenario where people want to talk to each other on an app. Do they go on a Skype or a WhatsApp, and how do they communicate? I think that's a very interesting discussion, because apps try to retain people on their own platform and have an engagement, whereas consumers tend to actually find other platforms to communicate. So I think it's a situation where you're trying to pull them and they're trying to go out of your app, but it's like you need to still see what your consumer behavior is and what they're trying. So I thought the discussion around it was quite nice.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite discussions at the end in terms of final panel. I just thought that we were able to go into a really good level of depth in each topic. We covered fraud, we covered user behavior, user engagement, we covered monetization.
Right.
I was pretty satisfied with it.
Yeah.
And there's a certain feeling of community at this show. I mean, people were willing to learn and share. The range of diversity, the internationalism was evident, and so that's what this conference is about. It's about learning and sharing. There's a lot of potential for this industry to grow X10, I think, over the next few years. And it doesn't feel like that right now, perhaps, but with the introduction of new technologies, it helps to have some level of industry collaboration and awareness, and that's what this is about. So, great seeing you. Hope to see you at the next one. Hopefully you'll come through. There's Mints coming up. There's a conference in London in October, and then Miami is the big one in January, which is more international, includes the matchmakers. This particular conference was focused on mobile dating, so it is a little bit more, well, this isn't niche. I mean, this really is the mobile dating industry at this stage.
It really is.
It's not, the first one of these was held in 2006. That was the first mobile dating conference. It was niche back then.
That was before iPhone.
And when the writing was on the wall, absolutely, yeah. It was Match, it was Lava Life, and WebDate. WebDate was the first downloadable app.
It's before my time.
Then there was Lava Life, which was SMS based dating, and Match was WAP.
Wow.
Yeah, come a long way. Here we are.
Here's to next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
the best.
great seeing you.
Bye bye.